There is a special kind of exhaustion. It's reserved for the woman who has always had to be strong alone. It feels like a heavy weight with no name. It's a silent battle you fight in the quiet hours of the night. You've looked everywhere for answers. You've read self-help books and tried new routines. You've used sheer force of will, but the burden is still there. What if the solution isn't a new strategy? What if it's a single, deep understanding? It is a piece of insight so important that it changes everything. According to the psychologist Carl Jung, this insight is the true start of healing. Before we continue, we must ask, are you ready to finally understand what this is? The path you are on now is not easy. It won't give you quick answers. It leads to a powerful revelation. This new understanding will realign your inner world. It forces you to look at a truth you have avoided your whole life. At the end of this journey, no one will rescue you. Instead, you will finally meet a part of yourself. The part that never wanted to be strong. The part that just wanted to be seen. Carl Jung wrote about this sacred meeting. He said, "It is the return to the true self. Let us walk into the hidden geography of your soul together. You wear a mantle of competence that no one else can see. It wasn't forged in a single fire, but woven thread by thread, year after year. In the quiet moments you understood that no one was coming to help. Maybe you were 7, maybe 15, when the silent understanding settled into your young mind like dust. I am the one who has to hold this together." The adults in your world were physically present, but emotionally, they were in another country, speaking a language you couldn't understand. They looked at you, but their gaze passed right through you. In Jungian psychology, this is the devastating wound of the negative mother complex, that deep, primal experience where the feminine principle, which is meant to nurture and hold, is instead absent or, worse, demands to be held. The child becomes the emotional caretaker of the parent, the anchor for a ship that was meant to be her harbor. In that moment, a profound shift happened within you. You didn't choose to be strong. Strength was simply the only available response to an impossible situation. The alternative was to shatter. A child's psyche is miraculously adaptive, but this adaptation comes at a cost. You learned that vulnerability was a liability, that asking for help was a waste of breath, that your own tears were a language no one around you spoke. So you learned to be silent. You started managing emotions, solving problems, projecting an aura of calm capability, because it was the only way to keep your head above water. But what began as a survival strategy calcified into your identity. What Jung called the persona, the social mask we wear to function in the world, never felt like a mask to you. It fused to your very skin. The woman who is always capable, always reliable, the last one to break in a crisis. This role became so convincing that you yourself forgot who existed beneath it, and the people in your life grew accustomed to this version of you. They learned to lean on your strength, to depend on your capacity to carry it all. Eventually, they stopped asking how you were, because the answer seemed so obvious. You're the strong one. You've got this. But your body keeps an honest score. While your mind keeps planning, organizing, and caring for everyone else, your body begins to send out distress signals in the only language it has left. A chronic fatigue that no amount of sleep can cure. Aches and pains that wander through your body without a medical explanation. A nervous system humming with a constant low-grade alarm, always braced for the next impact. You can't relax, not even when you have the time, not even when you are completely alone. Because a primal part of your subconscious is still on watch, whispering, "If I let go, even for a second, everything will fall apart." It's a paradox that Jung understood deeply. That which we resist most fiercely pursues us relentlessly. You fight against your own fragility, and so it follows you like a shadow. You refuse to fall, and so you live in a constant state of feeling on the verge of collapse. The immense energy you expend maintaining this fortress of strength is the very energy that starves your healing, because to heal would mean to lower the drawbridge, and to your nervous system that feels like annihilation. In your relationships, this pattern plays out with stunning precision. You attract projects, not partners, not by choice, not with conscious intent, but with the pull of a magnetic field. the partner who is emotionally unavailable, the friend who lives in a perpetual state of crisis, the family members who always seem to need something from you. Why does this happen? Because this dynamic is your native language. It is the only role in which you feel a sense of purpose and control. When you are the rescuer, the fixer, the giver, you never have to risk the terrifying vulnerability of receiving. To receive would be to return to that primal state of need you experienced as a child, when you reached out and found no one there. This is not a conscious decision. You don't wake up thinking, "Today I will find someone who needs me so I can avoid my own needs." It operates on a much deeper level, in the realm of the unconscious. Jung called it the repetition compulsion, that haunting tendency of the psyche to recreate the circumstances of an original wound, unconsciously hoping to resolve it this time. You are drawn to people who mirror your own emotional abandonment because some part of you believes that if you just give enough, love hard enough, fix enough, you will finally earn the prize that was withheld from you as a child. The feeling of being cherished, of being enough, just as you are. But it never works. It can't. Because healing the wound doesn't come from repeating the pattern more perfectly. It comes from finally breaking it. And that break begins with a painful flash of insight. You are not giving from a place of generosity, but from a place of profound lack. You are not helping from a place of pure love, but from a place of deep-seated fear. Fear that if you are not useful, you will be abandoned. Fear that your worth is measured only by your output. This realization is like the stage lights flickering on, revealing the flimsy set you've been performing on your entire life. There is a form of loneliness that has nothing to do with being alone. You can be in a crowded room, laughing with friends, and feel an existential isolation so profound it steals your breath. It is the loneliness of the person who has never been truly seen. Not the capable persona, not the strong woman, but the trembling, tender being underneath. It is what Jung described as the hunger of the soul, that unquenchable thirst for true resonance, for someone to see all of you and not turn away. Your parents may never have been physically absent, but emotionally, they were on a distant continent. This is a particularly confusing kind of trauma, because there is no clear wound to point to. You weren't abandoned in the traditional sense, but you were left to navigate the vast, often terrifying landscape of your inner world entirely on your own. And so you grow up with this strange cocktail of guilt and grief. Guilt for feeling abandoned when, on the surface, you had everything. And grief for the emotional presence you craved and never received. This emotional neglect shapes the way you move through the world. You learn to shrink your needs, to tuck them away, to treat them as unimportant inconveniences. You learned that love is conditional, something to be earned through performance, through strength, through being as little of a burden as possible. So you carry everything yourself, even when there are people standing right next to you who would be willing to help. Because to accept help would be to admit that you need it. And that feels like failure. In your quietest moments, you might wonder, why does even my success feel so hollow? You may have achieved everything you set out to. You are competent, respected, perhaps even admired. But there is a persistent emptiness that no accomplishment can fill. Why? Because the wound is not external. It is in that quiet, internal place where a younger version of you is still waiting to be seen, not for what she can do, but simply for who she is. Now we arrive at a turning point, a moment that is critical for everything that follows. Jung called the process you are now entering individuation. This is not an esoteric concept. It is the most painful and liberating journey a human being can take. Individuation is the process of allowing the false self to die so that the true self can be born. It begins by asking the terrifying question, who am I, if I am not the one who holds everything together? This question often triggers sheer panic. Your entire identity has been constructed around this role. If you were to lay it down, what would be left? The fear is real, because in a very real sense, a part of you is dying. But it is the part that was never truly you. It was a brilliant, necessary survival structure you built when you had no other choice. As an adult, you have a choice. You no longer have to play this part. But the fear of letting go is immense. The path of individuation leads you directly into the arms of your own shadow. In Jungian terms, the shadow is not the evil within you. It is everything you had to disown in order to be acceptable and to survive. For you, the woman who had to be strong, your shadow is filled with all the emotions you deemed unacceptable. Rage, grief, bone-deep exhaustion, resentment, and profound disappointment. Rage at those who were not there for you. Grief for the childhood you never had. Resentment toward those who took your strength for granted. To finally acknowledge these feelings is terrifying. You've spent decades suppressing them, believing they would make you weak. But the opposite is true. These repressed emotions are tying up enormous amounts of your life force. They are a subterranean river, constantly pressing against the dam you've built. When you begin to allow them to acknowledge their existence without judgment, something miraculous happens. Your energy begins to flow. You may feel more unstable at first, more vulnerable, but you will also feel more alive, more authentic, more you. There will be a moment, perhaps soon, where you break. Not metaphorically, but literally. A moment where you weep with an abandon you haven't allowed yourself in decades. Where the sheer weight of your exhaustion finally brings you to your knees. This moment is not your failure. It is the beginning of your liberation. Because in that collapse, you are finally giving the unspoken parts of you a voice. You are finally admitting, I have carried too much, for too long, all by myself. And this admission, as painful as it is the key that unlocks the door to freedom. Our culture teaches us to see a breakdown as a sign of defeat. But from a soulful perspective, a breakdown is often a breakthrough. It is the necessary death of the false self. It is the moment the old, rigid structure that no longer serves you finally gives way. And in the space it leaves behind, something new can grow. Something built not on fear, but on authenticity. Something that doesn't need to perform, but simply gets to be. Inside you, the little person you were before the world demanded your strength still exists. She did not disappear. She is waiting, in that deep inner chamber Jung called the soul. She is waiting for you to come back for her, to look at her and say, I am so sorry I had to leave you behind. I am sorry I forced you to grow up so fast. You deserved to play. You deserved to be small. You deserved to be held. This reunion with your inner child is not a sentimental exercise. It is profound psychological work. Jung believed we must become for ourselves the loving presence we never had. This is often called reparenting. You cannot change the past. You cannot go back and get what you needed. But you can, right now, begin to offer it to yourself in a way no one else ever could. This means learning to speak to yourself with the tenderness and patience you would offer a beloved child. It means honoring your own limits, taking your needs seriously, and allowing yourself rest without guilt. It also means taking responsibility, not for what was done to you, but for what you do with it now. No one is coming to save you. But the good news is, you no longer need to be saved. You are learning to save yourself. One of the most difficult lessons on this path is that forgiveness is not a moral obligation, but an act of energetic liberation. You don't forgive to absolve them. You forgive because you need the energy that is bound up in bitterness and resentment for your own life. Forgiveness is not saying what happened was okay. It is saying, I will no longer allow what you did to occupy precious real estate in my soul. I am taking my energy back. This process takes time. It is not linear. There will be days you feel healed and whole, and then a careless word or a difficult situation will throw you right back into old patterns. This is normal. Healing is a spiral. You will revisit the same themes again and again, but each time from a higher level of consciousness, with more compassion for yourself. What begins to change as you do this work? First, you become more aware. You notice the old patterns as they arise. You feel the pull to overgive, to take responsibility for others' feelings, to put your own needs last. And in that space of awareness, you have a choice. You no longer have to be on autopilot. You can pause, take a breath, and ask, what do I truly need in this moment? What would serve my highest good? Over time, your relationship with being alone begins to transform. Loneliness, for you, was always a punishment, a reminder of being abandoned. But slowly, it can transform into solitude, a sacred, chosen space with yourself. You begin to enjoy your own company, not because you are pushing others away, but because you are no longer running from yourself. You learn to rest in your own presence, without constantly needing external validation to fill the inner void. This is a profound sign of healing, when you no longer need to be busy all the time, when you can sit in silence without feeling anxious, when you have finally found a home within your own heart. Then, being alone is no longer a threat. It is nourishment. Your relationships will inevitably change. Some people in your life may become confused or even angry when you no longer operate in the old way, when you set boundaries, when you say no, when you stop being the first to rush in. Their reactions, while painful, are also informative. They show you who was in a relationship with you and who was in a relationship with your function. Some relationships may need to end, and that is okay. Making space for the new sometimes requires letting go of the old. At the same time, you will find that different kinds of people are drawn to you. People who can meet you at this new depth. People who are not looking for a savior, but for an equal. These relationships feel different, lighter, more reciprocal, more authentic. They are based not on need and obligation, but on mutual respect and a genuine desire to see and be seen. In this process, you may discover a capacity that has lain dormant within you your entire life, the capacity to receive. For someone who has built an identity around giving, receiving can feel terrifying. It makes you vulnerable. It implies need. But true strength, the integrated strength Jung spoke of, lies in the balance between giving and receiving. A person who can only give is not whole. They are cut off from half of life's flow. Learning to accept a compliment, to let someone help you, to allow someone to be there for you. These are revolutionary acts. They will feel foreign and threatening at first, but each time you dare to open your hands and receive, you are rewiring your nervous system. You are teaching it, slowly and gently. It is safe to receive. It is not weakness. It is simply part of being human. There is a moment in this journey that many women describe, a moment of quiet, profound insight. You might be sitting alone with a cup of tea, and suddenly you feel something you haven't felt in a very long time. Peace. Not the absence of problems, but a deep, resonant calm that is independent of your circumstances. It is the feeling of having finally, truly, come home to yourself. This feeling may come and go, but once you know it exists, it changes everything. This inner peace is the signal of your connection to what Jung called the self, that deepest center within you that was never wounded, because it exists beyond ego, beyond persona, beyond all the roles you've ever played. It is the essence of who you were before the world got its hands on you, and who you will be when everything else falls away. When you connect with it, even for a moment, you know, I am more than my history. I am more than my wounds. I am more than the roles I have played. From this place, your perspective shifts. The people who hurt you begin to look smaller, more human, wounded themselves. You understand they could only give what they had, and it wasn't enough. This doesn't erase the pain, but it robs it of its power. You are no longer defined by their inability to love you. You are a woman who survived a difficult story and chose not just to heal from it, but to grow from it. This doesn't mean life becomes easy. You will still face challenges. You will still have moments of doubt and fear. But you have something now you didn't have before, an inner anchor. You have the capacity to hold yourself through the storms. You have learned that you can feel deeply without drowning, that you can be vulnerable without shattering, that you can receive without losing yourself. And perhaps most importantly, you have come to understand that true strength is not about never falling. It is the courage to fall apart, knowing you have the capacity to put yourself back together, this time with more wisdom and more love. This inner freedom, this sovereignty of the soul, is the gift waiting for you at the end of this difficult road. It is a quiet gift, deep, unshakable, and entirely your own. The women who have walked this path carry a certain presence. It's a quiet authority, a groundedness that others can feel. They have nothing left to prove. They are simply, authentically themselves. And in that simple state of being, there is a power far greater than any armor they ever wore. You are on this path. Perhaps you are at the beginning, where everything still hurts. Perhaps you are in the middle, fighting to break old habits. Or perhaps you are further along, and these words feel like a homecoming. Wherever you are, it is exactly where you need to be. There are no wrong turns on this journey. Every step, even the ones that feel like they go backward, is part of it. This is the heart of individuation. It is not about reaching a final destination of perfection. It is the ongoing process of becoming more and more who you truly are. And it is your journey to walk. The healing we speak of here will not return you to who you were before. It will transform you into someone new. A version of you that has integrated her shadows and her light. A version that knows pain, and for that very reason, has a boundless capacity for compassion. A version that is free, not because she has no scars, but because she has made peace with them. As you walk this path, your very definition of strength will change. Strength is no longer the wall you build around your heart. It is the courage to let the wall crumble. Strength is no longer doing everything alone. It is the wisdom to know when to ask for help. Strength is no longer holding back your tears. It is the grace to let them fall, knowing they are cleansing you. This new strength is flexible. You are like a great tree, rooted deep in the earth but able to bend in the wind. This flexibility is the opposite of the rigid control that kept you prisoner for so long. And one day, you will look back, not with regret, but with a quiet sense of awe at how far you have come. Not because your life is perfect, but because you no longer betray yourself. In that moment, you will understand the simple, profound truth. You do not have to be strong to be loved. You do not have to be perfect to be worthy. You are allowed to be human, with all your beautiful imperfections, and you are enough. You have always been enough. The love you have been searching for your whole life does not live outside of you. It begins the moment you turn toward yourself with acceptance. This realization is not an ending. It is a new beginning. The beginning of a life where you walk with yourself, not against yourself, where your wounds no longer dictate your choices. They are part of your story, but they are no longer the whole story. You will still have moments of doubt, in which the old fears arise, in which you wonder if you are really on the right path. This is human, but now you have something you didn't have before. The ability to hold yourself in those moments. The ability to say to yourself, I see you. I'm here. You're not alone. And this inner voice, this loving presence that you have become for yourself, carries you through. The relationship with yourself is the most important relationship you will ever have, because it is the foundation for all other relationships. When you learn to treat yourself with compassion, with patience, with understanding, then you can also treat others that way, without losing yourself in the process, without sacrificing yourself. You can give from abundance, not from lack, and that changes the quality of your relationships fundamentally. This is not a story with a definitive happy ending. It is a story of continuous transformation, of daily choices, of small acts of self-love that add up. It is a story of you, as you slowly learn to become the woman you always should have been, if circumstances had been different. But the circumstances were what they were, and now you are here, with all that was, and with all that can still come. If you have listened this far, you know these are more than just words. They have touched something deep and true within you. Perhaps you feel tears, or anger, or a deep weariness. All of it is welcome here. You are on your way. And this space is here to walk with you, with words that come from the same place as your own longing, the depths of the soul. I invite you to subscribe, to continue this journey of inner exploration. In the videos to come, we will dive deeper into the themes that shape our lives, the shadows, the archetypes, the hidden patterns. I invite you to share in the comments what resonated with you. Not because you owe an answer, but because the act of speaking your truth can be a powerful step in your healing. Sometimes transformation begins with the simple act of making our inner world visible, even if only in a few written words. Your story is not over. It is being rewritten right now. And to stay with the process when it's hard, to keep walking step by step with yourself by your side, that is the bravest thing you will ever do.